a symbol of our nation. The flag is often referred to as the colors. During a parade or a ceremony like this, when you see the colors, it is appropriate to stand, face the colors, and square your shoulders to the flag as it passes by. This morning you will hear a drum roll when it is time to stand. Please join me in reciting our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Welcome to our 2016 Marysville Junior Senior High School Veterans Day program. We are extremely honored to have all of our veterans and community members here with us today to celebrate our veterans' service to our great country. It is with great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today, Mr. Brad Eichelberger, Operations Sergeant Major, Fire Section, 35th Infantry Division, Fort Leavenworth.
Coming this morning. Special thanks to all our heroes here today. This is kind of why we do this is for the guys that served in the previous. My name is Brad Eichelberger. I guess you could call me a Navy brat. My dad, George, served in the Army when he first got out of high school during World War II, and then got out, joined the Navy a couple of years later, and then served 20 years in the Navy and retired from the Navy. So a lot of this kind of has to do with him. We moved around a lot in those years while he was in the Navy, as many families do, and we finally settled down in Marysville in 1974. I finished my last 2 years of high school here in this great school here and graduated in 1976. I joined the Air Force later that year, got married to my high school sweetheart, Margene. Oh, and by the way, tomorrow's our 39th wedding anniversary, so happy anniversary, honey. was in the Air Force. We bought a new car, had 2 kids, because it's cheap to have kids in the military, and got all that done. We got a lot done in 4 years, so I got out of the Air Force and moved back to Marysville to raise my family, and we started a business, Rainbow International. I got to put a plug in for that, and so we've been doing that since 1989. Then one day I was approached by a member of the Kansas National Guard in Marysville, and he wanted to know, he says, hey, do you like computers? It was okay, 97, computers, they've been around for a while, but I said, yeah, I kind of like computers. He goes, well, how would you like to join the National Guard and run the computer system in MLRS, the launchers? And I said, well, yeah, I suppose that we could try that. I was 39, almost 40 years old, and it was almost 20 years to the day from when I joined the Air Force to when I joined the National Guard. So if I would have stayed either in the reserves or the Air Force, I could have retired when I just started joining the National Guard. Hindsight is always better. I started my career in the National Guard in 1997 with Alpha Battery, which is the National Guard unit here in Marysville of the 130th Field Artillery. And I started out as an E4. In 2001, I transferred to the Kansas Regional Training Institute, KSRTI, in Salina, and I was an instructor for the computer system that I worked on while I was in the Marysville unit. In 2003, I was deployed for a year. 2006, I got the chance to become a first sergeant in Bravo Battery of the 2nd 130th, which was at that time was Horton, Holton, and Atchison armories, and took care of approximately 80 soldiers in 3 armories. And looking back, I think that was probably the most fun I ever had since I've been in the National Guard when I was a first sergeant. I loved that job. Then I finally ended up in 2008. I ended up at the 35th Division, Infantry Division in Leavenworth, and like I heard of the Operations Sergeant Major in Fire Section. And we trained there to going to war by doing war fighters. And the war fighter is a computerized simulation to where we have the good guys and we've got the bad guys, and so whatever the bad guy does, the good guy counteracts. So it's an interactive deal where you have winners and losers. And my job there is to make sure that the computers are set up and running, my soldiers are trained, and they have all the information, everything they need to prosecute lethal and non-lethal targets in the field artillery world. It's kind of ironic. I started in the National Guard playing with computers, and in December next year I'll retire with a little over 25 years of service, and I end up playing with computers there. So now the question, why is it important for veterans? What's the importance of Veterans Day? Veterans Day is important because it's a chance to acknowledge the sacrifices of men and women who have served or are currently serving in the Armed Forces of the United States. This holiday was originally known as Armistice Day. World War I officially ended on June 28, 1919, and the actual fighting stopped on November 11th of 1918, when Germany and the Allied nations agreed to an armistice. In 1919, Woodrow Wilson proclaimed November 11th as Armistice Day. This holiday was intended to acknowledge the efforts of the Americans who served in World War I. In 1938, the word armistice was replaced by veterans to recognize many Americans who were mobilized during World War II. Veterans Day is now a day of honor for all American veterans. Why do we honor our veterans? Throughout our nation's histories, Americans have often found it necessary to go to war in order to preserve basic liberties. The Revolutionary War, for example, was fought to gain independence from the British. Without the servicemen and women who fought for these wars, American history may have run a different course. Servicemen and women who serve in wars often undergo great sacrifices. Some are killed in action, some are badly injured. Even those who leave the military unscathed have had to endure sacrifices such as long separations from their families, putting their personal lives and civilian careers on hold. Honoring these veterans is a way for Americans to offer thanks for their sacrifices. So how do we honor a veteran? Honoring veterans can be as simple as a verbal expressing thanks to the veteran, which a lot of you, when we were standing in the hallway, we got a lot of handshakes thanking for our service. And my response is, I like what I do, and I'm still having fun doing it. So, we appreciate that, just a verbal acknowledgement. And some people volunteer their time by visiting wounded veterans in hospitals, delivering care packages in the hospital to elderly, disabled veterans in need, or looking after families of veterans who did not come home. Another way is to recognize them in an event like this. So what's some benefits of being in the service? Well, money is one. If you're in the National Guard, you supposedly drill 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks during the summer, or 2 weeks a year. Well, since I've been in, I don't know that I've ever done just that. It's usually a lot more weeks, but like I said, it helps progression in your ranks and like that. If you can do extra time, do extra schools. Health insurance is a very good health insurance, prescription drugs. If you're planning on going to college, the Kansas National Guard can help you pay for your college while you're doing that. Military schools, you get the best military education in the world through our military. You get to travel. You go to all different places in the United States or the world. I've probably had time in probably 8 or 9 states since I've been in division. I've went to South Korea for a war fighter. Went over to England for 2 weeks and trained with them. So you get to meet a lot of different people, and also while you're on the quote little vacation while you're over there, you get paid to do it. So that makes it even better. And plus you get the satisfaction of knowing you performed your patriotic duty to your community and nation in helping keeping our country free. And I mentioned it earlier, friendship and camaraderie. You get to meet different people from all parts of the world. And in 2003, in January, I got tasked to build a lesson plan so I could retrain some soldiers of one MOS, which is your military occupational specialty, which is your job in the military. And we had to transition them over to another one so they could deploy with a unit that was getting ready to deploy. And they didn't have anything like that, so we pulled in an active duty sergeant first class from Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and him and I got together and we built the lesson plans and everything so that they could be certified as a different MOS. And we spent 2 weeks there in Topeka, and once we got done, I thought, well, I'll never see him again. You know, he's active duty, I'm National Guard, you know, different worlds. Well, a month later in February, I got deployed down to Fort Sill, met this sergeant first class, got to meet his family and his kids, had dinner with him, and worked with him for the next 4 months. So it's a very small world within the military. You meet people all the time when you've worked with them before. And it's amazing the friendships that you build throughout your career. I've met so many different people and have many friendships with my brothers in arms. You build a camaraderie with your battle buddies that when you go to war, you feel comfortable that they have your back just as much as you have theirs. Probably last but not least, I want to recognize and thank the family members of those who have served during deployments for keeping the home front safe, sound, and welcoming for those returning home. You're probably the underappreciated people during deployments and wartime, and probably have the hardest job keeping the home front going. So I want to thank them, thank all the people. They don't get the recognition sometimes that they deserve. Leave you with a couple quotes. It's easy to take liberty for granted when you have never had it taken from you. And that was by Dick Cheney. The last one is, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. And that was by John F. Kennedy. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.
Force in Ansley. He's been on the American Legion Honor Squad. He got an award the other night at a meeting for making 255 ceremony attendances. A lot of those were children. While we're on the honor guard, it's led by Jim Lundeen. It includes today John Robinson, Bob Baker, and Ed Ward. These folks will be the ones doing the rifle salute after the program. I doubt if we have any World War I vets left, do we? Okay, World War II veterans, please stand. Korean War veterans. Vietnam War veterans. Any veterans from the Midwest or Mideast wars, Afghanistan, Iraq? Okay, anybody who's now serving or still serving in the armed forces of the United States? I want to thank all you veterans for serving. One thing comes to mind with the election that's just over. We'll have another peaceful transition to the next president, whereas most countries end up with a revolution. So that's one thing you guys fought for, was to keep this country free, and I thank you. While the choir is getting set up, I will ask that during the taps and the final colors, etc., that everybody stand and the veterans will file off the stage. Thank you.
For over 200 years, the men and women of our armed services have defended the United States and continue to keep vigilant watch over our great nation. Created in 1775, the Army, Continental Navy, and Marines have participated in every war since the American Revolution. Our current Air Force originated in 1907 as the Aeronautical Division of the Army Signal Corps and was later named the Army Air Corps, and finally the United States Air Force after World War II. A debt of gratitude we as a nation owe these brave soldiers cannot be measured. With this tribute in song, let us remember those who have fallen and those who continue to serve. By standing when your service song is played, let us all join in the singing of the last measures of America the Beautiful at the conclusion of this American Heroes tribute. States Army.
Over hill, over dale, we will hit the dusty trail. The caissons are rolling along, and it's high in the field artillery. Shout out your numbers that are strong, for wherever you go, you will always know that the caissons are rolling along, that the caissons are rolling along.
The United States Marines.
From the halls of in the air, on land and sea, first to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor clean. We are proud to claim the title of United States Marines.
The United States Navy.
Joys we sail at break of day, 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 day. Our last night ashore, drink to the foam, until we meet once more. Here's wishing you a happy voyage home.
The United States Air Force.
Come to meet our thunder, as our boys give her the gun. Down we dive, spouting our flame from under, off on one terrible course. We live in vain, or go down in flame. Nothing will stop the U.S. Air Force. No, nothing will stop the U.S. Air Force.
Please join us in the singing of America the Beautiful.
America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown our good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea, from sea to shining sea, to shining sea.
Now I'll ask everybody to stand again for firing squad and the task and retiring the color.
Detail. Hit.